Hey guys, what's up? It's Dumb and Dumber Gaming here. Today we are gonna be doing something a little different actually. What I'm gonna be doing today is discussing how the current meta has been going really. So for reference, most of these decks can be found on GameWith, but some of them is not on GameWith, but is things that I've encountered during my rank games in Shadowverse for rotation. So let's get right to it and let's discuss some advantages here and there. So first things first, we are going to be looking at Loxios, Lox, Loxius Forest, right? Why do I call it Loxius? Anyway, Loxius is really strong follow a card right now. The deck is really strong. It's really difficult to play, but if you can play it, that's kudos to you. Um, the advantages being first or second, I guess it will come from the form of play points. So if you have first, usually you have an advantage, but the advantage isn't that big for Loxi's Forest. I've had games where I ended up counterplaying their big Loxi's plays, and I've had games as well where I ended up being countered by their Loxi's play, and so I think I will give this one here a 0. Oh, and before I forget, the scale here is from -2 to 2. 0 being neutral, -1 meaning slightly disadvantaged, and -2 meaning definitely not going to be a good fight. Um, 2 is highly advantage, and 1 is advantage. So yeah, you get the scale from there. Loxi's Forest against SL Forest, whatever you call it. Accelerate, yeah. So SL Forest is pretty interesting. Lots of healing. Not that it matters much to Loxies, given how much burst Loxies have. Loxies is also known as combo Forest. So it's possible for, depending on the composition of the Loxies deck. Let's say we follow the one on game with. Um, it's possible for SL Forest to out heal the damage from Loxi's Forest, but even for them, they have only so much heals. So if you're going first as Loxi's Forest against SL Forest, I would say that you're at a pretty good advantage. They'll be holding up their hands and trying to accelerate as much as possible. They're gonna get Arif out as soon as they can, so I would probably give it, but you have more turns to try and draw Loxis as going first. So and you get to play Loxis earlier as well. So there's that. I would probably give it a 1 for, so that means for Loxi's Forest, it's pretty good against SL Forest if it goes first. So and so on. We can discuss what happens when SL Forest goes against Loxi's Forest as first later on. But for now, let's take a look at Aggro Forest. Aggro Forest, quick burst. It's a lot of not rally. What do you call that? It's just they just pump up followers like no tomorrow, and they deal a lot of face damage. Loxi's Forest can handle it because depending if you can get to turn 5. But recently there's this new card called Levon, and Levon is really strong as an amulet, so that helps to deal with the aggro from Aggro Forest. So I would give it a 1 as well. Pretty much because you have both your Traveler's Respite to heal. You have, if you can get Shamu Shama's token cards, that you can also use that to heal. There's also Kokoro for healing as well, if you can get to the 8 Union Burst, or if you can get to the Union Burst off. So I would give Aggro Forest a 1. They usually don't have the firepower to take down those big followers that you get from Loxi's Forest. So yeah, that's a 1. Evil Sword. So this one's a little interesting. Evil Sword actually has a pretty decent advantage compared if you were to be going second than if you're going first as Evil Sword. So Evil Sword has Ramiel as well, which obviously screws over most of what's that elf archer's guy's name? I can't really remember, but the silver card um, that deals 3 damage to an enemy follower and 1 damage to the enemy leader if they deal if an amulet leaves the field. So Ramiel, if they get it. If not, let's see. This is probably a 1 here as well. Because what happens is Evil Sword usually does not have the um, removal by the time turn 5 comes. If you can bring a Loxies, or if turn 6 comes, you bring a Loxies. Maybe not turn 6, but turn 5. If you can bring Loxies out by turn 5, if they don't have Ramiel, you usually would be able to burst them down. And because you're most likely going to have only about what your board out of the 5 spaces your board has, you probably will be only occupying 3 if you play Loxi's Forest, so or even 2 sometimes. So if on turn 5, so I would say that it's probably possible. Even if they played Nut Knot, her token only removes 1 follower if you has or 2 followers in any scenario. So I think you stand a good chance. Maybe it's 0 actually, because Nut Knot just does mess over her, and Hans does mess over Loxi's board creation and so on. So there's that as well. Aggro Sword. Aggro Sword has been on the rise as of late because of Radical Gunslinger and some new rally mechanics. So I would still give it a 1 because Aggro Sword, unfortunately, unlike Evil Sword, it doesn't use Ramiel. So they focus more on trying to burst you down as quickly as possible. But usually by the time turn 5 comes, you've got Levon as well. In fact, maybe it might even be a 2 actually. So you shouldn't have any problems against Aggro Sword. Wolfreed Sword. This one's a really bit of a tough one because Wolfreed can get pretty. The followers in Wolfreed decks can get pretty buff. Wolfreed himself evolves on turn 4, so you probably will be facing stuff like 5/5 samurais and whatnot if you're really unlucky. But going first does have its advantages because they have to wait 8 turns in order to play Courtly Dance, and usually they don't have the defenses to deal with it. Shizuru does pose a bit of a problem because some of the decks do use Shizuru. So I would give it a 1 tentative for now. Because I think that Wolfreed Sword can handle can hold on to against the huge followers that you might have from a Loxis board, a Loxis deck. So yeah, I would give it a tentative 1 for now because you do have the advantage of not having to wait for of not being slowed down by and inhibited by the play point limit that you have. So yeah. Shikigami Rune. So this one is pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, Shikigami Rune does not fare very well against Loxi's Forest because Loxi's Forest, the board is pretty small. So that's right, Varmin Hunter. That's the silver card I was thinking about. Varmin Hunter actually does pretty well against clearing out their boards. I mean, Fury Embrace is one thing. They want to be able to spell boost. They want to be able to. The deck mainly focuses on trying to destroy any form of aggro as much as they can at the start. But if they cannot do that, and even if they try to go, they can't really go aggro against you. So you have time to set up actually your combo with Loxy. So I'll give it a 1 as well. Let's see here. Arcane Item Shop Rune. So Arcane Item Shop is rotating out after this expansion, as with most of the Netarian stuff. I would say this one is a 2 because Arcane Item Shop doesn't. Well, there is one guy on YouTube. I can't remember what his name was. Or actually, I know what his name looks like, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So, but there was one person who did run Ramiel, Magic Gunslinger in their, was it Magic Gunslinger? I can't really remember what's called exactly. That rune follower that brings out follower with no fanfare or something like that. Yeah. So that follower is so annoying. There is that combo as well to help push the arcane item shop faster, but most of the decks don't really run that. I can't say I would run it either, honestly speaking. So if you're going first as Loxy's Forest, just know that you have a time limit, but before that time limit, usually their removals are heavily focused on single target removal, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. So yeah, it's a two for me, in my opinion. You have a pretty good advantage against arcane item shop decks, and if you have huge followers on the board, usually they have a tough time removing those as well. So yeah. Next, we've got Vincent Rune. Vincent Rune hasn't really been seeing much plays as of late. Unfortunately, I mean, partly because of all the aggro, but I actually no, it was a pretty good. It was still a pretty good deck even with aggro around. But there are just way too many more fun decks to play right now. I wouldn't say that I would. I wouldn't say that Vincent Rune is bad. It's just that you probably will have a really tough time with it. So you should probably think. I would give it. Loxy's Forest doesn't have. It's usually burst damage, so that comes from a Loxy's Forest deck. So Vincent Rune usually does not enjoy playing against burst damage because what they do is usually you spam that spell, you clear out the boards. Um, so stuff like it does work against stuff like Rally Sword and whatnot, but you probably will not be seeing much Vincent Rune against Loxy's Forest and Vincent Rune actually winning. Um, the one advantage Vincent Rune does have in this situation is that it's going second for play points. They know that Loxy's Forest is not going to go aggro on them, so they actually can go aggro on Loxy's Forest. This is the reason why I think I've heard some people play it in the aggro rune format with Mazer and whatnot, but I think you can put a 1 here because Vincent Rune unfortunately does require followers. So unless they bring out Mirror Witch or stuff like that, usually you're not gonna be able to blast off all that Vincent stuff. But they can get their win condition activated by turn 4. So we'll I need more data to be honest. I haven't played against enough Vincent Rune decks as of late because nobody's really playing it. Okay, and Discard Dragon. This one really picked up since Georgius was added into the game. Um, I was playing on my alternate account the other day with Georgius and 3 Dark Prison Dragons. Those guys did 16 damage in total at turn when I had 10 play points. Throw in another blue Azure Dragon, you got 20. You basically have enough for an OTK. Assuming that well, maybe not an OTK, but if one of your you can actually just hold on to one of your Dark Prison Dragons and hopefully they can remove it and stuff like that. But it does do a serious amount of damage. Even and unlike before, what happened was that Discard Dragon really couldn't hold his own against aggro until Plesiosaur came out. But with Georgius, even if let's say you're going second, you can't play Plesiosaur. You've only got 5 play points by the time you reach turn 4. At least you can still play Georgius to handle all the aggro. But against Loxys, that aggro is not so much of a big problem. So, and usually, but they do have an easy time trying to remove. I wouldn't say easy time. They do have some advantages in trying to remove your board because each discard does 2 damage, but because of how big your board can get at certain points in the game, I would say that Loxy's Forest is a 1 because partly because they have to be really lucky. They've got to get Dragon Oracle. They've got to get another Dragon Oracle and the the gold card that searches for two highest cost Dragoncraft followers. But if they don't have that, usually or they have to get Dragon Oracle and then the Rowan's I forgot what the card was. The one that was combined with Valdine's Claw. Um, if they can't get that off, and they need to have Plesiosaur in their hand already. If they can't get that off, Plesiosaur is not going to come up by turn 4. That's their win conditions to get Plesiosaur on the field. Sometimes they don't even manage to draw Plesiosaur. If you watch the RAG, if you watch Rage games, you'll see sometimes pros, although most of them don't really have that problem, but there are times when Plesiosaur doesn't even come out, and that's just so annoying if you're playing Discard Dragon. So I would give Loxie's Forest a 1 for now, because Discard Dragon can easily wipe out your board if you're not careful. Natural Dragon. This one, so basically you have a time limit here as well. It's a lot less troublesome as if you were to play Roach back in Fortune's Hand era or the World Uprooted era, because back then Dragoncraft Poison was always the best solution. Poison, especially in World Uprooted, it was in Ultimate Colosseum. Um, it was the best solution against roach decks, which likes to prolong the game so that they can get all their roaches out and whatnot. But as of now, because they rely on Phoenix Roost, Phoenix Roost, for better or worse, affects everyone on the field. So if you play Loxies, there's a good chance that whatever you, because you're going to be doing a lot of drawing out as Loxies as well. So there's that aspect of allowing you to play even more cards. So Shamu and Shama can achieve their 6 card requirement, and so I would give it a 1 as well, because if you're really unlucky, I mean, this is a general case scenario. So let's say you got Loxies, you got both of your Traveler's Respite, and maybe you play an Alchemist Confectioner early on. Uh, you would be doing pretty well. Oh, someone's messaging me on Discord. I should probably mute that, but I don't have I'll do that later, I guess. Anyways, so yeah, Natural Dragon, it does pose a problem for Loxies if you cannot get your Loxies and your Neteran Great Trees out fast enough. Um, the good part is they don't really have wards except for Justice. So you can try your luck, and maybe if you have a Terraformer in your deck, maybe you could go Terraform. You could try and push Terraformers fusing, and hopefully they don't have Justice out in time to deal with your Terraformer. But there's always that option there, so we can always take a look at that later. Probably I'll give it a 1. Yeah. Ramp Dragon. So this card has been making this deck has been making huge comeback ever since Encounter from the Deep was added to the game. That card is so annoying. I've seen some people play with the Titan Amulet, and what happens is that Titan Amulet, you draw another one, and all of a sudden you have 4 giant huge dragons on the middle of the field. That card can be pretty troublesome unless you have something like Muknir or a Transform Amulet or Transform card like Form Bender, and hope for the best that Ram Dragon can't do much. The amulet doesn't do anything, but there are times when they don't even really need the amulet. All they need is just Resplendent Phoenix. They got to get Phoenix Roost out onto the field and start drawing out their cards, and all of a sudden you've got 5 in the turn 5. You've got a Justice that doesn't evolve, coming into the field and just biting you in the face for 11 damage. That's not fun at all. I don't think it's fun for anyone. But Loxie's Forest, basically it's the same thing. You have a time limit here, because once Resplendent Phoenix comes out, you probably know that they are going to be able to play out their huge cards as well. If they are unlucky, they'll probably get something like Boom Devil, but we'll see. Anyway, no, it doesn't get what Boom Devil, but maybe let's say something like Georgius, because I know Georgius was being used in the deck as well. So if you're lucky, they probably draw Georgius instead. Rem Dragon is still not as accurate as most people would hope for it, so I would say I'll give this a 1 as well. But it's probably tentative here as well, because it's really difficult to figure out what kind of how exactly they'll play Ram's Dragon. Aggro Shadow. So this one here can pose a little problem for Loxies because they're aggro. They've got Force Resurrection, so you're gonna be dealing with a lot of phase damage. They're not so much focused as they're not they do burn damage through the leader effects and whatnot, and they deal phase damage from followers. They are not as purely focused on follower damage as aggro Forest, so we do have a bit of a problem for Loxie's Forest. Loxie's Forest can still handle aggro from the followers, but aggro Shadow is a different matter altogether. Stuff like the Elf Queen, I forgot what her name was. Let me see. Let me open up my Shadowverse on my phone and see what her name was again. Let's see here. But anyway, if you have cards like her, I think your Loxie's Forest should be pretty safe. She's a safe bet for most people who play Loxie's Forest because she helps to clear out the boards and whatnot. And she also does draw cards as well. Let's see what's her name again? Kokoro Sokuna. Elf Queen of Abundant Life. That's right. So if you have that card, highly advise you to get at least 2 copies inside your Loxie's Forest deck. So I would give this a 0 because you have Aggro Shadow gets turned for Evolve. Usually that's when Abyssal Rave comes out. You're going to be taking 6 face damage like just from an Abyssal Rave. So do note that you may not even live to depending on how quick their aggro is. You may not even live to survive to do a full proper Loxie's combo play. So yeah, Perdition Shadow. This one is a little troublesome as well because of the recently in the the qualifiers for the RAGE winter tournament. During the finals, there was a player who actually played this deck. Let's see what's his name, if I can even remember. I can't read that stuff, but he was you can find it in the tournament winning decks under Shadow, Grimoire Shadow. They've brought back Deathbringer, and Deathbringer is so good for dealing with aggro and huge bursts of that. Even for huge bursts of damage, it's really good for dealing with that too. So. And unfortunately, because Loxie's Forest, usually you only have 2 or 3 followers on the board at a time. Deathbringer himself is pretty big, so you're gonna be facing a really difficult challenge right there. They even have stuff like Great Peak Corpse, so you probably want to be careful when you play against Perdition Shadow. If you're lucky, they won't get their shadows out in time. They somehow run out of cards in their hand, but you have times when you get pretty unlucky as well, and unfortunately they do get Deathbringer out in time. They get their Demonic Procession or Savoring Slash or Great Big Corpse, and then all of a sudden you have reanimated 7/7 follower on the field that kills 5 and kills 2. So I would give this a -1 because they are bound to draw cards pretty quickly. Reanimate Shadow. Okay, so this one is a little bit it's been making a comeback as of late. Same format as Fortune's Hand, Miltio, what's his name? Dread Lord, whatever that guy is called. I was about to call it Dead Metal Star. That's the Japanese pronunciation. But He Who Wants Rock, and Fatal Orders, and I think some of them also bring Deathbringer and Invincible Monster Trio back, and there are some who even use Nephthys, so there's that as well. Just do note that Reanimate Shadow is not exactly that reliable as before because of how much aggro and burst, and it doesn't do very well against aggro, honestly speaking, so there's that as well. I would say you have a 1 here because usually they try to reanimate as much as they can, but there's that. There's the problem of trying to get enough cards in your hand and proccing enough burial rites so that the Dreadlord can come out. So that's a 1 for me. You're gonna be pretty good. You're gonna be in pretty good shape against a Reanimate Shadow deck. OTK Shadow. So there's this deck that's been coming out as of late. Toph Gremory combination deck. Uh, you play something like, I don't even know whether they even have Invincible Monster Trio, but they focus on Natura. So once you hit your Natura limit, the last word required, the count required, you can bring Gremory in. Hopefully you play a couple of cards, then bring out Legendary Skeleton, and then clear out your board so that there are exactly 6 followers on the field, and then you bring in Miltio, and then that's an OTK. So that the good news is that that deck requires turn 9, because as far as I know, most people do not use um, Ramiel for that deck. There are some who do it in if they can, but as far as I know, most people do not. So we have that going for us there. OTK Shadow does have a problem. I mean, they can deal with. There is that little trick where they deal with what's the name of that guy? That stupid accelerate follower. Um, let's see. I don't remember all the names off the top of my head, unfortunately. I'm not a walking dictionary. Let's see. Goldmine Necromancer. That's right. That's who he is. There's this little trick that people have been playing around Goldmine Necromancer, and they'll bring out Beastly, whatever that card was, the one that gives you a 0 PP Natura. Let's see, what's the name? Create cards. Oh god, I should have done this a lot earlier actually. Let's see, having the phone and the app right in front of me. So let's see. Okay, here I am. Beastly Medium. Okay, I thought that was what it was, but I wasn't sure. Beastly Medium. So they get a lot of those using Force Resurrection and that card and Guilt. They usually tend to have a lot of those 0 PP Netarian Great Tree amulets in their hand. So you probably want to be careful when it comes to that. So I'll give it a 1 as well. So yeah, you do have a chance because they require turn 9 and they're going second. So there is that problem for them. So I would say that you stand a pretty good chance in killing them before they kill you with Toph and Gremory combos and whatnot. Ward Haven. So this one can pose a little bit of a problem if you are playing as Loxie's Forest. Most of the time you shouldn't have any problems because Ward Haven, actually no, you should have a lot of problems unless you're playing, you have a Wolf Rod in your deck. Most people don't run Wolf Rod anymore because he's just occupying space, but there are some people who I think my friend actually does put at least one copy of Wolf Rod in their deck. So that, in the event that they do need to, if they are playing against a deck that they know they can't win by hitting the face, at least they can try and draw to win. Same thing goes with Sanctuary Haven. So the thing about Ward Haven is they've always have that Ramiel by turn 4. There are times when they don't, but they'll just play Ramiel on turn 4, turn 5 they bring in Wilbert, and all of a sudden you're having a lot of trouble. So I would recommend a Wolf Rod if you ever think that Ward Haven would be a problem. Thankfully, Ward Haven has been on a decline as of late. Haven't really seen the deck much except maybe in my alternate account. I still have the deck. It's still pretty fun to play, but it's really difficult as well. It requires a lot of trickery, honestly speaking. But I would give it a 0 because you probably do not stand a good chance of trying to get past all those wards unless and if and only if you have Wolf Rod, because Wolf Rod does help to deal with those wards pretty effectively as well. Sanctuary Haven. This deck has been on the rise as of late. In fact, now I think if you look in the professional scene right now, back then before the mini expansion hit, most people are still playing Ward Haven and whatnot, right? But now there are 3 main decks that are being played: Loxie's Forest, Rally Portal, and Sanctuary Haven. Sanctuary Haven's got so much control, so much healing, can be really annoying, especially if you're Rune or if you're playing as Blood. So I would say that this is a -1, unless you can kill them off within 2 turns or so, and you have to pray that they don't have enough healing. Never mind the holy sanctuary. If they don't have enough healing, you probably can win. But times like this, I recommend another wolf rod again. I wouldn't. There is a player called Dayan, Dayan, on YouTube, and he does a lot of these really good forest decks. He's basically what me and my friends, we consider him a deity in the forest craft, a legend of sorts. Basically, the forest he doesn't speak to Forestcraft. Forestcraft speaks to him, kind of thing, kind of shenanigans. So if I were you, I would take a look at Dayan's video if you want to see how to play as Loxy's Forest Terraformer. He basically just completely focuses on forest and nothing else but forest. Uh, who knows? Maybe his house might even be in the forest. Um, I learned a lot from watching his videos if you want to play as Forest, so and how to play against Forest as well. So do look him up if you're actually curious about. I'll probably put the link down in the description. Hopefully he doesn't mind because I know there are some people who don't like being mentioned in other people's videos. But yeah, Natural Haven. So this deck has been coming up as really popular deck as of late. Oh my god, it's already been half an hour and I've still only covered. I haven't even finished half the decks yet here. Natural Haven is Storm Haven as they call it now. Major Meowskers. I wanted to call it Mr. Meowskers for a second. That would be a demotion right there. But Major Meowskers, Agnes, Daffodil. I have the deck here as well. It basically is just completely pushing your way through with storm cards and face damage. Lethal, and because now Lethal Almirage exists, you will be facing a lot of problems trying to deal with face. Kudos to you if you're playing Arcane Item Shop. You probably won't have to bother with the Lethal Almirage except, and you probably want to get rid of all the Meowskers that's in Featherfolk Punishers. That's about it, I guess. You can actually turn Featherfolk Punisher against them as well, if I'm not wrong. But I would give, in the case of Loxy's Forest, Loxy's Forest doesn't do very well against, does actually kind of do well against Sanctuary Forest, actually. Not Sanctuary Forest, what am I talking about? Natural Haven. Natural Haven is, it does rely on speed, but if you have once turn 5 comes, if you can play the Loxy's combo, most players will be able to play a combo of sorts on turn 5, so whether it's through Varmint Hunter or through Loxy's, so I would probably give this one a 1 as well, because they gotta speed things up as well for the Daffodil, for Havencraft side, so they are on a time limit because they have one play point less than you do. They start their plays a lot later than you do, so there's that as well. Burn Blood. So Burn Blood, I kind of misjudged the deck. I think most people seem to be having pretty good success with the deck. I'm having mixed success, honestly speaking. Probably I wasn't thinking hard enough when it came to coming up with a solution to deal with the aggro. There's IO, of course, but you usually want your Ravening Corruption as well. Now we have we have the new card, Bloodsoaked Archdemon. Pretty great. It's a great card and all. He functions as a sort of a ping as well. He also can help you search for your Ravening Corruption rather than wasting the Creeping Madness, which we had to do in the past. So I would give it doesn't have as much of a problem as before because Ravening Corruption is your main win condition no matter what happens. So I would give it. If they can get Ravening Corruption out by turn 4, and they don't have to worry about aggro either. So I would give it a 0 because depending on how big your board gets, because most of the time Forest followers don't really get that big. The biggest I can think of is maybe Loxy's Forest. You've got all 3 amulets out in the field. You've already taken out the let's see, you've taken out. Mm, assuming that Sukuna goes in, that would be an 8-10 follower. 10 if you have. I think 10, yeah. Yeah, it's probably a 0 because depending on how unlucky you are, the more face damage you deal to against them, the more choices Lucius has against you. So you probably want to be very careful when you play against Bowl Blood, Burn Blood, or whatever you call it. So, oops, that's my, excuse me, that my phone just fell. Anyway, so yeah, you want to be careful with that. And unfortunately for Loxy's Forest, if you don't have Resolve of the Fallen, if you don't have Terraformer, you're going to be in for a rough time against, or if you don't have Levon, you're going to be in for a rough time against Archdemon. So do take note of that. There are people who don't run. If so, you've got to pray that you can hit them hard enough and fast enough before they overtake you with Archdemon and Ravening and Ball combos and whatnot. So yeah, so I would give it a 0 there, because Blood does stand a good Burn Blood does stand a pretty good chance against Loxy's Forest. Wrath Blood does not do very well in the current meta. I've seen people run Archdemon with it. I've seen people run that new amulet with it. Not exactly my favorite combination, but it does work. Not the amulet, but because the amulet is pretty easy to destroy or get rid of. But the Archdemon does help a lot, I guess. It helps you to search for your cards, because Burn Blood does have this problem. Not Burn Blood, Rough Blood. It does have a problem of trying to draw cards. So there's that as well. So but Loxy's Forest usually, because they hurt themselves so much, there are times when a single Loxy's combo actually does enough damage to kill them off. So I'll give it a 1 or even a 2 actually, because you're going first. Um, Volteer Blood. Volteer Blood is one of the biggest mysteries. I have absolutely no idea whether, I would say it's you've got a 1, unless they can get Ramiel out in time. Because if they do get Ramiel out, you're going to be facing how many turns? That would be what, 2 turns earlier? 2 turns earlier, yeah, 2 turns earlier. Voltio. So rather than playing it on turn 7, they're gonna be playing it on turn 6. Wait, that's 1 turn earlier. Sorry. So turn 6, Voltaire. So I would say it's a 1 because you can still technically get past them if you can land the lucky combo by turn 5. Voltio does 5 damage to all followers in the field the moment it comes into play. So Voltaire, I'll give him a 1 unless you're really unlucky, I guess. Artifact Portal. This deck hasn't really been seeing much play because Control Portal and Rally Portal are way better now. It used to be tier 1, but with Absolute Modesty rotating out, unless they give us new artifact cards next expansion, I don't see this deck being played that often anymore. Absolute Modesty was one of the biggest cards for Artifact Portal because Vertex Colony is also rotating out next what you call that expansion anyway. So after the next expansion, so that's another factor, I guess, why I wouldn't really go with Artifact Portal if you want to build one right now. Artifact Portal is pretty in a pretty bad spot against Loxy's Forest because Loxy's Forest has tendency to turn things around. You've got if you've got Carmelia, I guess, or Carmelina, or whatever her name was, the Darkness Servant. She can do pretty well, I guess, as a form of pseudo defense. But honestly speaking, I don't see this deck doing very well against. I don't see this deck doing very well against the most other decks. So I would probably give that card a. I would probably give him a 1, yeah. Probably a 1. I know I said that I will be giving this out by the before the Grand Prix started tonight, but Unfortunately, it seems that it's going to be taking a lot longer than I expected. So yeah, please bear with me for that. I'm sorry about this. Okay, so artifact portal, probably a 1. Control portal, Astaga. Who's messaging me on Discord? Okay, hang on. Um, Astaga is my god in what you call that in Bahasa, if you know the language. So yeah, but control portal does fare pretty well against most other cards. So I would say that uh, most of the decks, honestly speaking, actually, now I think about it. But you shouldn't have anything to worry about against control portal. Usually you can bring out the damage. They don't have the heals most of the time to deal with that kind of damage. So I would give this a 1 as well. But you do take note that they still do use Ramiel, so you might want to be careful about that. Let's see, Rally Portal here. Rally Portal is Rally Portal. It can go either way, honestly speaking. Rally Portal is one of those decks that can do really well or it just fails completely. But I would give it a, let's see. I would give this deck a 0, I guess, because it's assuming that they do really well, you're not going to be enjoying it anyway. So 0 it is. Okay, now let's take a look at SL Forest. SL Forest. SL Forest is probably not that great of a choice, honestly speaking. Let's take a look here. SL Forest. Yeah, SL Forest against Loxy's Forest, you're going first. You're going to have a bit of advantage over them, so I'll give it a 1 because you're going to outheal. You're going to be able to get all your accelerates off faster, and you don't have to worry for Loxys until turn 5. So you can start planning for that rather than having to plan for it by turn 4. So there's that as well. Okay. I think Yeah, I think that's about right. So definitely a 1. So hmm, SL Forest against SL Forest. Um, I would say that, let's see here. SL Forest, yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, SL Forest does not against itself. You definitely have an advantage. Always assume that they're having an advantage, unless it's there's only 2 decks I think that does not follow that rule. 3 decks actually, maybe even 4 decks that doesn't follow the rule of if it goes first, it doesn't. Oh Jesus, okay. There are decks that don't follow that rule of if it goes first, it doesn't do well. So yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Aggro Forest. SL Forest deals pretty well against Aggro Forest, so that's a 1. I think that one doesn't really need an explanation why it's 1. Uh, yeah, I shouldn't need an explanation of why it's a 1. So, because you're gonna outheal those guys anyway. So, let's see here. Evil Sword. I think this one here is a -1 because they can get their play points out pretty quickly as well. So you're gonna be in a pretty big disadvantage, unfortunately, if you're going to play against evolution sword going first, because it's true you can get more of your stuff out earlier, but at the same time you do have that problem of how do I put this? You're not going to enjoy um, you're not going to enjoy playing against a Ramiel based deck early on. So there's that as well. So I would give that a -1. Yeah, that's about right. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Aggro sword, one. Definitely a two, because you're gonna be out healing and out damaging them most of the time. So there's that as well. Let's see here. Wolfreed Sword. Wolfreed Sword doesn't do very well against. Does it do well against SL Forest? Yeah, it does actually do pretty well against SL Forest. You can buff your Irene to God knows how much with SL Forest, but yeah, just remember this way. Shizuru is always going to be buffer than Shizuru in a Wolfreed Sword is going to be buffer than your Irene. So that's a one definitely. Even maybe even that's negative -1, maybe even -2 actually. Shikigami Rune, depending on how it goes, you can there is good potential for you to lose there. So I would give it a 1 as well, because they can just burn out your entire decks and whatnot. So yeah, that's a 1 from me. Arcane Item Shop Rune. Depending on how long it takes for you to get your accelerates, honestly, you'll be better off playing aggressive against them than playing defensively. So let's see, that's probably -1. I mean, you can try and out heal them, but no guarantees you can. Let's see here, -1. Yeah, Vincent Rune. Uh, Honestly, I don't see a problem against Vincent Rune, so that's probably a 1 as well, because there aren't that many cards with the effects, I guess. Maybe there's some SL and stuff like that, but hmm, yeah, I give it a 1. Yeah. hmm Yep. Okay. Let's see here. Uh, discard dragon. Let's see. Discard dragon. Discard Dragon does not fare very well against SL Forest, due to the fact that SL Forest just messes everything over. It just out heals your damages Discard Dirk. So I would say that you don't really have anything to fear if you're going SL Forest against Discard Dragon. So that's another 1 for me. Natural Dragon, you will have a lot of trouble. This is a negative. It's a -0, because depending on how quickly they can get Valdane and Resplendent and Phoenix out, you're probably looking at a big problem in dealing with these kind of boards. Dealing with the poison damage, because there's no, with 3 Primal Giants and Arif, depending on how long your Arif can even survive. If you can't survive it, too bad, you're gonna lose. Ram's Dragon, I would give this a -1 as well, because actually -2, because Phoenix Rose actually just fucks you up so much. Excuse the language. But it does mess around with Phoenix Rose does mess you up a lot, because just imagine it this way: Phoenix Rose is a card that halves all the cost of the cards that come into your hand. So any other cards that might come into your hand after that does suffer that problem. You will suffer problems trying to deal with aggro. not aggro, what am I talking about? You will suffer from problems trying to deal with, let's see, trying to deal with, it's not aggro shadow actually that's causing the problem. You will suffer from a lot of problems dealing with the Perdition shadow. No, it's suffer a lot of problems from. Sorry, I'm not thinking right now. It's 10:22 p.m. It's pretty late. Let's see. You will suffer a lot of problems from the any decks that deal with um deal with really fast reflex stuff and really fast damage and whatnot. So let's see here. Let's see, aggro shadow, SL Forest. You will, you can try. I think with Elf Queen of Abundant Life, you should do pretty well. So that's a 1, I think. Perdition Shadow, not so much. You're gonna have to get through all the Invincible Monster Trio. So I would say that you wouldn't be doing very well against it. Uh, Reanimate Shadow, you can survive this one because it's mostly raves and whatnot, so you should be able to survive. Yeah, I think so. Mm, yeah, let's put it that way. Okay. So reanimate shadow is probably -1 because they also have invincible monster trio, but they also have he who wants rock as well. Some of them even run Nefty, so you're running against even more control against them than maybe against OTK Shadow, for example. So I don't see a very good future here. So let's see. Uh, OTK Shadow, you can actually beat their 9 turn limit if you're lucky. So I'll give it a 1 as well. Most of the time you're going to be controlled, so actually maybe a -1 would be a good choice here. Ward Haven, don't expect to win. If you have Wolf Rod, great. If you don't, well, that's too bad for you, I guess. Let's see here. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely 0. It's definitely -2, unfortunately. This is like by far the worst deck you don't want to play against, unless you're Wolf Rod, expect to lose. Sanctuary Haven, you will have to save up pretty hard, I think, for this one. So -2 for me, I think. Mm, -2, Sanctuary Haven. Natural Haven, you can outrun their limit, so mm, yeah, negative. This is probably a 1 here because you can still outheal a lot of their burn damage that they do early on. So let's see here. Hmm. Burn blood. I would say that you don't stand a very good chance against burn blood, honestly speaking. So, I mean, you can try and outheal the burn damage, but once Archdemon comes in, that's a GG. You probably won't have anything to deal with it. Maybe Resolve of the Fallen. I guess you can try and deal with that. So that's but because they get it so much earlier than you do, so -1 from me. Uh, Rough Blood. God, this is really hard actually. -1. That's my rating, yeah, -1. Um Mostly because Rough Blood doesn't do very well against. It does do very pretty well against because they curve right back at around the same period you start the curve as well, and they curve harder than you do. So I would give it -1. Voltaire. Voltaire is a little difficult to predict. I will give it an 1 as well. Most of the decks do pretty well against Voltaire. Artifact Portal. Given your advantage that you have in numbers, because you're going to be using a lot of that chipper skipper cards, so I would give it a 1. Control Portal, I gave it a 1 as well because they can't control the Irene that comes out. I guess most they can try and slow it down with the Ramiel, but unlike Valdane or whatever other cards there are, you're not dealing leader damage here. You're dealing damage with a follower. So there's that. Rally Portal still a 0. It can go either way. Um, if the other guy is great, great. If he's not that good, well, yeah. So let's see here. Aggro Forest. Aggro Forest against Loxy's Forest. Going first is always great. Aggro Forest. Let's see how this one does actually. Aggro Forest, I would give this a 1 because you're going first. First things first. So you don't have to worry about the Loxy's combos until turn 5. Uh, what you do have to worry about though is you do have to worry about any attempts by SL Forest because they can just out heal you. You're going to be dealing with that card as well. I would say that yeah, it's probably not advisable to try and go against SL Forest with that. Against an SL Forest with an Aggro Forest deck, so that's a -1. They get one more. You have to worry about Elf Queen of Abundant Life by turn 4, so uh, could prove troublesome. Uh, let's see here. Okay, God, this is so hard. Uh, okay, Aggro Forest, I'll give it 1 obviously because you're going to be going first, so you're going to be able to play more points out. Really luck dependent, honestly speaking. Oh, this is weird. Okay, I'm playing against a guy right now. He's got Aliaska in a Wallfree deck. Not sure, quite sure what to make of that, honestly speaking. Let's see here. Yeah, who plays Wallfree in then? Who plays Aliaska in a Wallfree deck? That's so weird. Guess he's doing it for the evolve? Huh? Sorry, I'm trying to process what I'm just trying to see here right now. Uh, what I don't even know what to say here actually. But yeah, so aggro forest is a 1. Evil sword, just know that you're probably gonna lose -1. That one's not the question. Uh, -1, yeah, -1 because, or actually -2 in fact, because unless you some -1, it's a good chance. So you probably put a 1 actually here, unless they have Shizuru. The Shizuru's become pretty popular as of late, so I will not counter out if you ever see her. Yeah, how can people count Shizuru out actually? Shizuru out is still pretty good. Because the whole meta right now is pretty focused on aggro. So what is this guy crazy guy trying to do here? I don't get it. Yeah, life is really difficult right now because a lot of people are making some questionable plays. But aggro sword, aggro sword. You do pretty well against aggro sword actually. So it's a 1 for me here as well. Wallfree sword. Don't expect a miracle. You probably will not win unless somehow by some sheer luck, sheer dumb luck, you actually win with that stupid card. I have no idea how people will win against that. Shikigami Rune 2 because why? Why? Because you're bound to run them over pretty hard with Shikigami Rune. So don't worry too much about it. Arcane Item Shop Rune, definitely a 2 for me. Because well, it is Arcane Item Shop. You are not going to win an arcane against Arcane Item Shop. You're going to win against Arcane Item Shop. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Arcane Item Shop is doesn't do very well against if you go in second against any aggro deck. So if you play Arcane Item Shop, I think you know what I'm talking about. Unless by some sheer dumb luck they are stupid enough to think that, hey, you know what, this guy doesn't do much. They think that you can't do much against this guy. So there's that problem as well. Let's see here. Vincent Rune. I've seen people play this deck against aggro because they're both aggro decks technically speaking. But Vincent Rune has also got board clear and effect removal, but they also give you mirror, which I would say 0 because technically they are both aggro decks. You're pretty even there. Discard dragon. Count your chickens. If you're lucky, they don't get their discard out in time, so you've got a 1 here as well. This card Dragon still does not do very well against a lot of aggro decks. If they don't get Georges, they don't get. Hey, yeah, there is Georges now. But still, even if they don't get Georges, you're not going to be able to deal much with it. So let's see, Natural Dragon, 2, because they don't have that much healing to deal with whatever you nonsense whatever shenanigans you come up with. So and whatever shenanigans this game is coming up with. Ramp Dragon 2, because it still requires ramping and you're going first. So I would say, yeah, you probably stand a pretty good chance against that. Aggro Shadow. Aggro Shadow. Probably a 2. I honestly would give Aggro Shadow a 2 here, but Aggro Shadow. Aggro Shadow is a 2. Should it be 2? It's probably a 1. I might have to cut this video a little shorter because it's already been an hour since I started. So maybe today's episode we just cover in Forest. I'm gonna have to make this an episode by episode basis. Perdician Shadow. Unfortunately, because of Deathbringer combinations, -1. Anything that relies on aggro, just know that it will be messed over by anything with Deathbringer. So don't count your chickens. You will not win. That's my take on it at the very least. Reanimate Shadow, you do stand a chance. I don't think they might use their fatal order, so maybe not actually. So let's leave this as a 0, tentative, because Reanimate Shadow does require a lot of shenanigans to get it going. So tentative 0. OTK Shadow, you've got a pretty good chance here. 1. Actually no, maybe not, because they've got ISIS and stuff like that as well now. So that's what my take on it is. Let's see. I don't think. Yeah, I think this was -1 here, because you're gonna be blocked by a lot of these cards. Sanctuary Haven -2. Don't expect to win. Just give up unless you have Wolf Rod. Natural Haven, probably a 0, because 0 Natural Haven. What does Natural Haven? It's a Storm Haven deck, right? So if it's Storm Haven, you can win actually, depending on how it goes. I've seen people lose in Storm Haven, because Storm Haven does do some very funny things to people. Let's see, Storm Haven. You can aggro them down pretty quickly, but they've also got Daffodils. They also have their own form of control as well. So I gave it a -0 tentatively here, because I don't have enough data to confirm whatever I'm seeing right now. Burn Blood. Burn Blood, you do very well actually. So I'll give it a 2. Because I told you, I've already said this before, but aggro does not fare very well against aggro of any sort. But blood never ever. Oh dear. Okay, blood will never ever deal with anything that does very well against aggro. So just remember that. That's the always the biggest key to remember there. Mm, Rough Blood. This one's a hard one, a tricky one actually. Rough Blood. They can curve. They have Aragavi, but I think it's still a 2 because they still have to do a lot of self-harm damage. Aggro is always the solution against any blood deck, so just remember that. Oh boy. Hmm. Yep. That's definitely okay. Yeah, that's 2. Voltaire Blood, a 2 as well, unless they do have a lot more removal than the usual, and they also have the more survival options as well. So there's maybe a 1 actually. Uh, Artifact Portal, probably 1 as well. Mm, because Artifact does require a lot, but they have Absolute Modesty, they have Carmelia, they have Iron Stigma Architect. I give it a 1. Yeah, that's about the best I can give it, I think. Because firstly, you're going aggro. They have Ilganeo to deal with you, but honestly speaking, I don't see Ilganeo being too much of a problem. Uh, yeah, Ilganeo should not be a problem. Control Portal might be a different story altogether. I know some of them run. They obviously run Muknir and Toy Box, but I know some of them also run Boost Kicker as well. So you've got that going against you as well. So I give Control Portal a 0 because also even though you're going first, you have the disadvantage of you have a disadvantage still going first as a control portal. Rally portal, rally portal negative 1 because they go about as fast as you, and they have Sylvia and stuff like that. So okay, I was hoping to cover the entire table, but I just realized how much time it probably take to cover and explain every my decisions. So thanks for tuning in. I'll make this an episode based on crafts. Hopefully we can cover this by the end of next week. It's Thanksgiving weekend. Maybe I might work on more stuff since it is Thanksgiving weekend. So yeah, it's probably a good idea to try and work on more stuff there. All right, this is Dumb and Dumber Gaming, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.